Hello everyone, and welcome to a tutorial on how to create a GeoGuessr game just like this on Turbowarp. Just a disclaimer, you will need to provide active debit or credit card information to Google. This is to prevent fraud from the Google Street View API, and your card will not be charged. But without further ado, let's get right into the tutorial. So the first step is to go to OpenCageData.com because we need the API key to get the location info for our game. So I'm going to sign up here using Google, but you can use whatever method you prefer. And now go ahead and click reverse geocoding and fill out the form with whatever applies. Now click the continue button. Now that you're on this page, you're going to want to click create another API key if you don't see one yet, and reload the page. You should see your API key in the geocoding API tab. Once you've done this, copy your key and head right into Turbowarp. In Turbowarp, create a variable called OpenCage key and set it to the key you copied. Once you've done that, you can hide the variable. Next, back in our browser, we are going to go to console.cloud.google.com and agree to the terms of service. Once you've done that, let's go ahead and click the agree and continue button. Now click APIs and services. Now we're going to create a project. You can make this project named anything you like. I'm going to name mine GeoGuessr and go ahead and click create. The loading process for this can take a while, so please be patient. If it doesn't load, just click the select a project button and it should load your project. Now in the search bar at the top, type Maps API and search. Click on the first result, APIs and Services, and now click APIs and Services in the menu. This is the part where you need to fill out billing information, so I will just cut to once that is completed. Once you're in the Google Cloud Console, click APIs and Services again, and now click Maps JavaScript API. Just like how we got one with OpenCage data, we now have a Google key. Copy it to your clipboard and click Go to Google Maps platform. Now click Maybe Later. Go to the Keys and Credentials tab, and don't worry about this exclamation mark here. It's perfectly fine for this tutorial, just make sure you do not give away your key. You can always find your Google key again in the Keys and Credentials tab in the menu. Now we're going to head right back into Turbowarp and create a new variable called Google key. Set your Google key to what you just copied, which is your Google API key. Now you can hide the variable. Now let's start setting up our Turbowarp environment. First of all, click the Advanced tab and set the custom stage size to 640 by 360. This makes it full screen. And check the 60 FPS and store settings in project. Once you're done with that, we're going to be adding some extensions. So go to Serves Gallery, which is linked in the description, and copy the code for spell check. Once you've done that, go back into Turbowarp and click Add an extension, and then click Custom Extension. Now click Text and paste in the code and run the extension without sandbox. Now click Load. As you can see, the spell check extension has loaded and it's right under my blocks. Now we're going to go to Sharkpool's extension collection and we're going to get Variables Expanded. Click it and copy the extension code. Make sure you're not downloading the file and you're copying it by making sure the clipboard is bigger than the download icon here. You can click it to switch from clipboard mode to download mode. Once you're in clipboard mode, click on Variables Expanded and it should copy. Now do the same thing with what we did with the other one, text, paste it in, run extension, and load, and as we can see, Variables Expanded is as well right there. Now we're going to be adding 4 more extensions inside of the Turbowarp extension gallery: iframe, JSON, fetch, and Lily's toolbox. Now we are finally ready to start coding. Go ahead and put a when green flag clicked and go into the iframe category and set the width and height to 640 by 360. We're going to set the iframe X to 0 and the iframe Y to 0 as well. This just resets the iframe just in case it gets moved somehow. Now we're going to broadcast a new message called map. And now once we've done this, we're going to go over to our Pastebin links, which these will be in the description. We're going to be opening up the links lat, long, and code. And for each of these files, go ahead and click the download button like I'm doing and head right back into Turbowarp. Create a list called code and right click the top of it and click import. Now choose the code.txt file you just downloaded from Pastebin. When it asks you this, just click OK while leaving the text box blank. Your list should look like this with 4 items in it. You can go ahead and hide it now. Once you've done this, create a new list called lat, which stands for latitude, and do the same thing with the lat.txt file from Pastebin. This time, you should not need to leave the text box blank. And now, just go ahead and do the same thing for long, just like what I'm doing. Next, we're actually going to do something when we broadcast map, so put a when I receive map block down, and we're going to create a new variable named random. Hide the variable and get a new set variable block and make it say set random to random 1 to length of lat. Once you've done that, we're going to create 2 new variables, one called latitude and one called longitude. Go ahead and hide both of those variables. Now we're going to set latitude to item random of lat. Now we're going to set longitude to item random of long. Now we're going to go over to iframe and get the show HTML block and put it right under the set longitude block. Now we're going to go to operators and get the join block. Delete both of the inputs. Now go ahead and duplicate this join block by right-clicking it. Put it inside of the right one and keep repeating this process until there are 7 blank inputs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to do that one more time and there should be 7. Now in the first input, put the item 1 of code block. Now in the second input, put the latitude variable. In the third input, put item 2 of code. In the fourth input, put the longitude variable. In the fifth input, put item 3 of code. In the sixth input, put the Google key variable. And finally, in the seventh input, put item 4 of code. Now go ahead and drag that big block into the show HTML block. Now we're going to create 2 new variables, one called answer, which we're going to get a set answer block and just delete the 0. Now we're going to create a new variable called response. Put a set variable block right under the other set variable block. Set this one to response and now go into the fetch category and get the fetch block and put that right inside of the 0. Now we're going to go ahead and go to operators and do the same thing we did earlier and just delete the 2 inputs. But instead of 7 operator inputs, we're just going to be doing 6 this time. In the first input, we're going to be typing exactly the text on the screen. But also, this text will be in the description if you just want to copy and paste. And now once we've done that, we're going to go to variables and put the latitude variable in the next input. Now in the next input, we're literally just going to put a plus sign. In the next input, we're going to put the longitude variable. And in the next input, we're just going to be typing the text on screen, which is just and key equals. And lastly, we'll put the OpenCage key variable in the last input. And now drag that whole block into the get block. Now we're going to get another set variable block and make it set answer to. Now we're going to go to the JSON category and put the value of key in key value block inside of that set answer block. Duplicate it and put it inside of the key value input. And now get the item 1 of array block and put that inside of key value. Now inside of the array input, we're going to be putting the value of key in key value block. Now replace the first instance of key with country. Replace the second time it says key with components, and replace the third time it says key with results. And finally, go to variables and put response where it says key value. Now you should be able to go ahead and run the green flag and allow again, And boom, you should see Google Earth with one of the random 10,000 locations that are inside of the lat and long lists. And if you show the answer variable, it looks like we are actually in Madagascar. Very cool. Alright, now it's time to go to Pastebin and download the last 3 lists. This is countries, download alias 1, and download alias 2. All 3 of these lists will be available in the description. Now create a new list called countries and import the countries.txt file you just downloaded from Pastebin. And now do the same thing for the alias 1 list. And now the same for alias 2. Keep in mind that each of these lists should have a length of 245. Now go ahead and put down another green flag clicked block. And in spell check, get the reset dictionary block and put that right under when green flag clicked. Now create a new variable called IDX, which stands for index, and put a block down that sets the index variable to 1. And now we're going to get a repeat loop, and we're going to make it repeat the length of countries. Now go back to the spell check category and get the add word block. Inside the first input, make it say item IDX of countries. Now right under that, get the change IDX by 1 block. Now we're going to duplicate this entire script and put it right under our old script. But now we're going to wrap the add word around an if block. And now put the greater than block inside of the if block. And in the first input, put the length of apple block. And where it says apple, we're going to be making it say item IDX of alias 1. Now change that 50 to a 0. And since we duplicated this from above, change countries to alias 1. Now go ahead and duplicate the same script I'm duplicating and put it right under. Now change both times where it says alias 1 to alias 2. And now go back to spell check and get the remove word block. And then just completely delete the input. Now we're going to be making a variable called click to guess. And this button will actually be visible on screen, so make sure you name it how you want it to be named on screen. Now go to variables expanded and get the set monitor type to and set our click to guess variable to a button. Now if we run the green flag, we should see our variable turns into a button. Now I'm going to drag it into the bottom left corner. Now we're going to make some more editor space and get the when button press block. Set it to click to guess. Now we're going to create a new variable called ask and get the set ask to block. And now we're going to go over to Lily's toolbox and get the prompt block. We're going to have to do this by clicking show legacy blocks. Now you can make it prompt you with whatever you want, but what I'm going to make it say is guess the country/territory you're in. Now we're going to go ahead and get an if block. And now on operators, get a not block. Now go to spell check and get the lucky block. And inside of the input, go ahead and go to variables and put ask. Now go to operators and get the equal sign, and inside of the first input, put the lucky ask, and inside of the second input, put ask. Now drag all that into the not block. Now get a repeat until block, and put that inside of the if. And now make that repeat until block say lucky ask equals ask. Now get an if else block and put that inside of the repeat until loop. And inside of the first script area, put set block. Make it set ask to prompt and then invalid country or territory or whatever you want it to say when somebody has typed in an invalid country. Now go ahead and put an if block right under that set ask block. Now go to operators and put an equal sign there. Make it say if ask equals null. Then set ask to a blank input. Now go to control and get a stop this script block. Put that right under the set ask block. Now go to operators and get the or sign. Now get the equal sign and put that in the first input. In the second input of the equal sign, put undefined. And in the first input, put lucky ask. Now in the second input of the OR, we're going to be putting another equal sign operator. In the first input of the equal sign, put the ask variable, and in the second input, put null. Now go to control and get the if-else block. Put that inside of the else scripting area. Now go to operators and get the greater than block, and in the second input, put 2. Now in the first input, put length of ask. Now go to variables and get the set ask block. Now we're going to get the prompt block and go to operators and get the join block. Now put another join block inside of the right input of the join block. In the first input in the join blocks, put did you mean with a space after it. And now in the third input, just put a question mark. In the second input, put lucky ask. Now drag that whole block into the set ask to block. Now we're going to copy that whole script and put it right under the set ask to block. Now in the empty else scripting area, just copy that set ask to block and put that right there. And now remove the join blocks inside of the prompt block. Now copy that same script from earlier and put it right under the set ask to block. Now under all this, we're going to get an if else block and put a countries contains thing block. And inside where it says thing, we're going to put lucky ask. Now go to control and get an if else block. Now go to operators and get 2 OR blocks and put it like I do. Now get an equals block and put it inside of the first OR. Now make it say lucky ask equals answer. Now go to operators and get another equal sign block, and in the second input put answer. Now in the first input get an item 1 of list block. And inside of the 1 put an item number of thing in list block. And where it says thing put lucky ask. Now change the first alias 1 to countries. Now duplicate that whole equal sign operator and put it in the last OR input. And now change alias 1 to alias 2. Now go to control and get an if else block and put it inside of the if scripting area. Now go to operators and get an equal sign and make it say if answer equals blank. Now go to Lily's toolbox and get the alert block. Make it alert you by saying sorry there was a connection error. Now duplicate the block and put 2 join blocks just like I do. And in the first input, put correct, the answer was indeed, and then a space after it. And in the third input, put an exclamation mark. Now in the second input, put the answer variable. Now duplicate this alert and put this in the other else. Now you can change it to make it say incorrect, the correct answer was, and then answer. Or you can really form this message however you want, it doesn't really matter. Just keep in mind that the answer variable represents the correct answer in that scenario. Now we're going to duplicate this entire script and put this inside of the empty else scripting area. Now change countries to alias 1 here, countries to alias 1 here, and countries to alias 1 here. Now go ahead and change alias 1 to alias 2 here, and change alias 2 to countries here. Now duplicate that entire script again and put that in the empty else scripting area again, and change alias 1 to alias 2, alias 1 to alias 2 here, and alias 1 to alias 2 here. Now you can change alias 2 to alias 1 here, and just leave countries how it is there. Now duplicate this incorrect alert and just put that in the empty else scripting area. Now you can snap that big script into the other one if you haven't done so already. Now under everything, just broadcast map. If you followed everything correctly, you should be able to run the green flag and play the game. Now, I'm going to take you through the exporting process. This is the Turbowarp packager, which can be accessed through File Package Project in the editor. And I recommend following these settings. Set the frame rate to 60. Set the custom stage size to 640 by 360 for full screen. Make sure Show Progress Bar is checked off. and make sure Start Project Automatically is checked on. If you want your game to be a website, choose plain HTML, but if you want it to be a downloadable program on your computer, choose Electron Windows Application. For this tutorial, I will be choosing plain HTML. Now go ahead and click Package, and it should download an HTML file onto your computer, and now open it up and you should be able to play GeoGuessr. As you can see, the game works as intended. I click here to guess. I'm going to guess Denmark, and it was correct. Now I'm going to test out the autocorrect feature. I'm going to misspell Japan, and it says, "Did you mean Japan?" And it was correct. Now I'm also going to test out the aliases. So this is going to be the USA, and I'm going to put USA instead of United States, and it should still allow me to type it in and think of it as USA. And it was correct. Now I'm going to test out the incorrect feature. So this is Argentina, but I'm going to guess Chile, and it was incorrect. And everything looks like it works. That's the end of this tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed or if it helped, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. If at any point you run into a problem or need any help, you can join my Discord server, which will also be in the description. You can also ask for help in the comments, which either I or somebody else in the comments will reply and maybe help you. If you guys want there to be a part 2 where you can upload this to a website and maybe even make a cloud feature where you can 1v1 other players, then just leave a comment letting me know that. Anyways guys, that's the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching.